Wood Leaf, Fire Shadow, Reincarnation Eye, Kaleidoscope, Uchiha Family, Fusion, Invincible Flow, traverse into the world of Hokage and start by directly merging with the Eye of Reincarnation. It can better integrate various techniques, whether it's Kaleidoscope or Reincarnation Eye, it's no problem. Fire Escape. Phoenix Flower Technique. Fire Escape. The Art of Haohuoqiu. Integrate everything and push the entire ninja world horizontally. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Crossing the Fire Shadow World, I am Uchiha. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the classroom. What? You want me to go find my grandfather again? How many times has this been? My grandfather said he doesn't have money. During Yuzhibo Meichin's lunch break, he looked down at Shenglan, who was buried in his head eating and drinking. How could your grandfather, an elder of a noble family, not have money? Be obedient, just go and get it, just say it's me. Get lost. How much money have you borrowed from Grandpa? He has already said, even if he sells you, you can't afford to pay it back. Every time I go, he's furious, and I dare not borrow anymore. Meichin rolled her pretty eyes and said. Are you going or not? Shenglan stopped eating and scanned Meichin with protective eyes. It was this kind of gaze again, and Meichin's face turned red. This aggressive and special gaze made her feel extremely uncomfortable, but she didn't know why it was like this. Not going. Meichin struggled to escape from the classroom, and she was most afraid of Shenglan's gaze scanning. This feeling made her inexplicably ashamed. Shenglan quickly reached out and grabbed Meichin. I sighed inwardly that Meichin's resistance was becoming stronger and stronger. So what? After racking his brains for a moment, Shenglan said helplessly, tell Grandpa that I want to see him. Feeling the hot and powerful palm, Meichin's small face turned red and she quickly nodded in agreement, then ran out of the classroom as if fleeing. Picking up a spoonful of rice with a big spoon, Shenglan took a bite and chewed it in his mouth before murmuring vaguely, this rice. Really soft. Boss, what's so soft? The 1,000-handed rope tree ran over with a thud. It's nothing, have you collected all the protection fees this week? Shenglan asked arrogantly, gritting his teeth. Nothing. Nothing. Seeing Shenglan's mischievous expression, Qianshou felt a little scared. We've almost collected everything, but because that guy from the Japanese team led the way in resisting and refusing to pay, many people who joined him have refused to pay. I was just planning to take my brothers to him. Hinata takes the lead in rebellion. Looking for death. Shenglan flicked his toothpick with a finger and slammed the table fiercely, shouting. Qianshou was first startled, then immediately became excited and quickly added fuel and vinegar to the fire, saying. Boss, you don't know how despicable that guy is. He even complained to the teacher, causing me to be scolded and punished for washing the toilet. You didn't confess me, did you? Shenglan was shocked. No, how could it be? I'll carry it on my own, said Shingjinma. Shenglan patted his shoulder upon hearing the words and praised and comforted him, saying, good brother. Lead the way, I'll go get you started. Okay boss. Qianshou was so excited that he trembled all over. He led Shenglan in a hurry to find Rizu. During this period, Qianshou didn't mind the big deal and even invited a group of his younger brothers. A group of people aggressively approached Rizu. The Japanese football team was originally playing ball with a group of young players, but as they watched the oncoming rope tree, they immediately stopped. Qianshou ran over with his dog legs bumping around, then snatched the football and placed it in front of Shenglan. Shenglan looked at him admiringly and found that the rope tree had absolute talent in terms of dog legs. Controlling chakra to flow towards his feet, just like his daily practice of stepping on water, but this time it's not for balance, but to enhance his strength. He kicked that football away with one kick. Shoo, bang. The extremely fast speed and strength acted on the football, and in the blink of an eye, it wiped the hair of the Japanese foot and fiercely collided with a tree that was the size of an adult's calf. Bang! The whole ball was kicked out. That tree also broke at the waist. The terrifying power displayed by Shenglan frightened many elementary school students who were watching, and they couldn't help but grow their mouths. Even in the camp of the Japanese football team, a 6-year-old elementary school student suddenly burst into tears. Afterwards, everyone in the Japanese football camp immediately dispersed like birds and beasts. In the football field, there were only Rizu with a stiff and composed face, as well as Rizo hiding behind him with a frightened expression. Ta! 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 Shenglan slowly walked towards the two brothers. Every step he takes seems to be stepping on Hinata's heart, and every time he takes a step, Hinata's face turns pale. When I stopped in front of Rizu, my two faces were less than 20 centimeters apart. I asked the rope tree to collect the protection fee star. Whoever dares not to pay is just making it difficult for me. Shenglan said softly with a calm expression on his face. Upon hearing the words, Qianshou blushed and his brain was congested. He watched as more and more elementary school students gathered around him eating melons, and he followed suit with a whimsical shout. You also can't get along with me. Rizu's face stiffened at first, and then turned red all over. By what? He worked hard to overcome his fear and shouted with all his might. Just rely on me. Yuzhibo wins over Lan. Shenglan's voice was not loud, but everyone present was shocked and their eyes widened. His eyes widened slightly, and the power of his will condensed in them. Looking at these eyes that were as calm as water without blinking, Rizu felt a genuine sense of violence and indifference in them. He felt like he was being targeted by a fierce beast, and fear surged out of his heart like a tide. His feet trembled and unconsciously retreated. It is absolutely impossible to fight. When Shenglan didn't take the initiative, the Japanese football club would never take the initiative to attack. However, Shenglan's use of this momentum to oppress him is more uncomfortable than directly beating him up. As the sun retreated, he instinctively wanted to stay away from Shenglan. But those eyes were still fixed on themselves, that kind of unblinking stillness, like a precursor to a ferocious beast's attack. Moreover, after taking the first step back, this feeling becomes even more pronounced. Okay. We'll give it to you, we'll give you as much as you need. At this moment, instead, the day difference withstood the pressure, with one hand against the retreating sun foot, shouting loudly. Upon hearing this, Shenglan nodded and looked at Rizu's pale face, whispering meaningfully. You have a good younger brother who has more courage and responsibility than you. After Shenglan finished speaking, he ignored the constantly changing expression of Rizu and turned to walk towards his classroom. However, halfway through, Shenglan's voice rang out once again. The two members of the Hinata family need to pay for 4 people. Upon hearing this, the Hinata brothers collapsed on the ground. For no other reason, this brother's family has money, even more than the Hokage family. How many branches of Hinata are serving the ancestral family? The Zong family directly controls everything related to family separation, not to mention money. Even the fate of family separation is in the hands of the Zong family. As the crown prince of the Zong family in Hinata, the monthly allowance will be less. He is the truly wealthy second generation, with his daily progress and abundance. Okay. So handsome. Among elementary school students, a girl murmured. The melon-eating crowd present, regardless of gender, suddenly nodded in unison with a strange and mysterious gesture. Such a domineering momentum crushing. Rizu students can't resist it at all. Wufeng Shuimen sighed, his relationship with Shenglan was good, and he rarely spoke out. Who is this? So arrogant, shouted a girl with a big pancake face and long blood-red hair. Although her tone seemed disdainful, her eyes were filled with admiration for Shenglan. Someone next to her heard her question and kept away from her, afraid of being affected by the fish in the pond. His name is Yuzhibo Shenglan, a classmate of Class 1. He is a very nice person and also my friend. Feng Shui introduced the girl shyly at this moment. Are you the only one? Such a domineering boy would make friends with a sissy like you. The girl sneered suspiciously. Shuiman had an awkward expression on his face, but he wasn't angry either, because he had been frequently mocked and attacked by this girl recently, and he was almost used to it. I don't know where I offended her. You're still domineering. He's just a thug, a scoundrel. Yes, he's just a scoundrel. The Uchiha Mei-chin next to the girl. She was also deeply immersed in the worship of Shenglan just now and couldn't extricate herself. It was only then that she regained her senses and cursed with a smile. Her voice was not low, and many people could hear it, even the rope tree could hear it. As soon as Shengshu's anger rose, he fixed his gaze on Mei-chin. His face changed and his anger immediately dissipated. He nodded and bowed to greet Miss Mei-chin, and then ran to play Shenglan. Ah! Rogue! Do you know Mei-chin? The girl exclaimed in surprise, her nerves thick. They both belong to the Uchiha clan. Are they in the same class or at the same table? Said Feng Shui, sweating with black lines all over his head. Even though Shenglan had just reported her own family background, the girl's nerves couldn't react. It wasn't until now that Shuiman had made it clear that she suddenly realized. Ah! Mei-chin, he has such a relationship with you, the girl exclaimed in surprise. What's the matter? Jiu Xinai, don't talk nonsense, I have nothing to do with him. Mei-chin hurriedly said, blushing with embarrassment. It's okay. I just said about your relationship with him, but I didn't say what it was. Why are you blushing? Is it that kind of relationship? Jiu Xinai first doubted, then said with a shocked expression. Ah! Are you looking for a fight, right? Mei-chin blushed all over her face and directly pinched Jiu Xinai's waist. Jiu Xinai quickly laughed and dodged, and the two chased and fled happily playing. Chapter 2. Prince Qianshou, Rope Tree. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After one class, Hinata handed 100 taels of banknotes to Shenglan, who nodded and said. In the future, just hand it over to Shengshu and he will collect it on my behalf. Got it. The day difference didn't dare to say much. He was relatively honest and timid, so he hurriedly ran away after paying the money. Hee, little money. Shenglan smirked foolishly. Enough money to buy a special version of chili smoke grenade. Shengshu smiled humbly, and he also had a share in the money he received. He accounted for 30%, while Shenglan accounted for 70% originally. The rope tree was supposed to receive 240 silver coins, but Shenglan used the rounding method to change the trouble and cut off his 40 taels. Feeling $600, Shenglan smiled. Their class was all descendants of a wealthy family, and there was no shortage of pocket money. Shenglan recognized this and maliciously charged each person $200 in protection fees. Letting the rope tree collect on his behalf is mainly to let him bear the pressure of the teacher. After all, he is the prince of the thousand-armed clan. The teacher can only curse a few words and then symbolically punish him a little. They absolutely dare not do anything to the rope tree. Of course, even without the rope tree, Shenglan wouldn't do much to do this. Every child in Class 1 has a backing behind them, which is really beyond the control of teachers in these schools. Let Shenglan bear the pressure from the teacher and the students themselves. We have already communicated with Shenglan before, and anyone who disagrees will give him his name. Looking for trouble. Then find Shenglan that night. Mei-chin led Yuzhibo Feng. The two arrived at Shenglan's camp. Bunny, isn't there a place for you to live in your tribe's land? If you insist on living in such a shabby place, be like a wild child and embarrass my Uchiha family. Yuzhibo looked at Shenglan cursing. Shame. What kind of face does the Uchiha family have for me to lose? Having a face is also shameless, except for teacher Quan and sister Josie. Shenglan pouted and said, but when he saw Mei Qin with a murderous expression on his face, he immediately reacted and said. Of course, it doesn't count as Mei Qin either. Mei Qin is very different tonight. Mei Qin pouted at the words, with a proud and playful smile on her face. Shenglan quickly approached her upon seeing the situation, carefully observed it, and then sniffed slightly obscene. Dressed up so cute, I seem to have sprayed perfume. What's the purpose? Shenglan just flirted with perfect Qin, looking at her at a loss. Before she could laugh out loud, he saw Yuzhibo Feng gritting his teeth and staring at his palm. Watching him stretch his hand into a palm and pinch the wrist of the other hand, Shenglan became wary. He frowned and asked, "What are you doing?" Upon hearing this, Yuzhibo looked at Shenglan and said seriously. "I'm controlling myself, I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself, so I'll slap you to death." Shenglan's forehead was sweating and he smiled awkwardly. "Bunny, why are you calling me here? Let's talk about borrowing money first." Yuzhibo asked directly. "Grandpa. Don't keep scolding him. Didn't you say that we are an ancient clan in the ninja world and should abide by etiquette? It's not right to speak dirty like this." Yuzhibo leaky cotton jacket furrowed her brows and said in dissatisfaction. She felt like her grandfather didn't like Shenglan, and every time she mentioned him, it seemed like he would get angry. Of course, she didn't have much concept about money. When she grew up and found out how much money Shenglan had borrowed from her grandfather in total, and whether it was a loan or not, she understood why her grandfather was angry. Blinking provocatively at Mei Qin, Shenglan quickly looked at Yuzhibo with a gloomy expression on his face and said. "So what, I already have the strength to endure, I think I can graduate now." What are you saying?" Yuzhibo asked with uncertainty. His mother had just started school for over half a year and was thinking about graduating. Although he knew that Katsura was a genius at the demon level, when he heard that Katsura wanted to graduate with his own ears, he couldn't help but slap his lips hard at the thought that he might become the youngest ninja in the history of Kiba, breaking the record for the lowest ninja school graduation. He doesn't think that Shenglan doesn't have the strength to endure. After all, a pair of 2 jade will eyes, combined with 2 ninjutsu techniques, 1 illusion and 1 endurance, already have the strength to endure properly. After all, one only needs to master the 3-body technique proficiently to qualify as a ninja. In the original work, during the Naruto era, at the age of 12, Nishinobu took the graduation exam and only underwent a simple clone technique, indicating that becoming Nishinobu was not difficult. If it weren't for the fact that there is still a lot of knowledge needed or necessary to learn in ninja schools, I believe many people would choose to graduate early. Although Shenglan has the ability to graduate completely, Yuzhibo cannot allow Shenglan to graduate just like this. Genies like Shenglan, who are at the demon level, fear fame the most. If they become too famous, it is highly likely that they will die prematurely. Kiba is a cradle full of geniuses, and inside it, there are spies from various ninja villages secretly operating. One of the most important tasks for these spies is to collect intelligence on the geniuses of Konoha. Even some ninja villages have set up assassination teams specifically to eliminate other ninja village geniuses, targeting and assassinating geniuses from various countries to prevent them from rising and threatening their own countries. If someone like Shenglan were to expose his strength, Yuzhibo would definitely not need any ninjas from other villages to take action. There may be many people in his own village who cannot tolerate him. No, as long as Shenglan exposes his riding will eyes, it will be difficult for him to continue growing. Within the wooden leaves, no one among the older generation would want to see another Uchiha spot emerging from Uchiha's family. Upon hearing Shenglan's answer again, Yuzhibo did not agree or refuse, but instead raised his hand in front of Shenglan and said. "Come and take action on me, let me see if you have the qualifications to become a ninja. This isn't good, after all, you're at your age. Shenglan pretended to be in a difficult situation. Hurry up, little bunny, don't honk around. Yuzhibo was a bit angry, he was actually looked down upon by a little kid. When was he looked down upon so much? Although his strength may not be as strong as before, he was still an elite figure when he was young. Although his strength has indeed declined significantly, resulting in an estimated level of only Nakano, his decades of combat experience is not comparable to that of ordinary Nakano. After all, he is one of the few people who have witnessed the end of the Warring States period. A more accurate estimate is that he currently has the strength of an elite ninja, but with the Sharingan enabled, he can still maintain a particularly high level of ninja for a while. At his age, his eyes were actually already murky, and the 3 hooked jade pieces gave him very little strength boost. Teacher Quan, why are you here? Shenglan exclaimed as he looked behind Yuzhibo Feng. Shoo! Yuzhibo just glanced behind him and immediately heard a burst of wind blowing ahead. A fist slammed fiercely into his old face. Chapter 3. Battle Yuzhibo Feng. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sinister. He was shocked by the speed of Shenglan's attack when he only had time to curse loudly, so fast his fist rubbed against Yuzhibo old face, and he grabbed his wrist with his back hand, using his strength to pull Shenglan and throw it towards the open space on the side. Shenglan flipped a somersault in mid-air, landed steadily, and charged towards Yuzhibo at full speed. Woodleaf Whirlwind. Shenglan jumped and kicked him hard on the head. Bang! Yuzhibo raised his hand to resist, but his footsteps remained motionless. He grabbed Shenglan's ankle with one palm. However, the wooden leaf whirlwind had one move and 2 consecutive kicks. After being blocked with one strike, Shenglan fought steadily and kicked away the palm caught by Yuzhibo with the other kick. Wood leaves break and rocks rise. As soon as he landed, Shenglan sent an elbow strike towards his chin. Yuzhibo took a step back and clenched his right hand, forcefully hitting and smashing it down. Shenglan let out a muffled groan and quickly retreated, his face turning red with the excruciating pain. Seizing the opportunity for Shenglan to reveal his weaknesses, Yuzhibo launched a series of attacks. In an instant, Shenglan fell behind and was kicked far away by him. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and his own speed was 1 point faster than the elderly Yuzhibo. It was only then that he blocked this kick, which was considered a minor injury. No problem. Little devil, you're still a little tender. Yuzhibo mocked. Shenglan remained silent. He knew what the old man meant, and his strength was indeed too weak. Due to limitations in his body and age, Shenglan was currently powerless. You have such thick skin. Shenglan suddenly smiled and pointed his finger on his right cheek, directly mocking him. Feeling a burning scratch on his right face, Yuzhibo said with a gloomy tone, Mei Qin, stay away. Looking at Mei Qin, who was surprised but couldn't regain his senses, Shenglan chuckled lightly. Mei Qin, stay away. Don't worry, I'm just fighting with your grandfather and won't really hurt him. Upon hearing this, Yuzhibo face twitched as he patiently watched Mei Qin leave. Yuzhibo directly took action, and he couldn't bear it anymore. Fire escape. The art of Haohuoqiu. A signature ninjutsu from the Uchiha family spat out from his mouth. Shenglan widened his eyes, not expecting this old guy to really come. Aren't you afraid of hurting me? I'm only 5 years old. Shenglan cursed inwardly, exerting force on his feet and rolling several laps in an unsightly but minimal manner. He chose to rely on his speed advantage to avoid Yuzhibo powerful fireball. With a loud roar, a huge fireball passed by. Before Shenglan could stabilize his figure and get up, the sound of the hidden weapon breaking through the air sounded, and a stone shot towards him head-on. Breath. Shenglan didn't lift his head either, but pulled out Ku Wu with his backhand. Sensing the direction of the flying stone, he raised his hand and waved it accurately, knocking it down. This was the benefit of his powerful spiritual power and supernatural senses. The powerful perceptual ability is already comparable to the 360-degree visual perception of the white eye. Even though the current sensing distance is still too small, within a radius of 3 meters, his spiritual induction is omnidirectional and has no dead corners. You don't need your eyes to see, but your brain can sense it. If it exceeds 5 meters, you need your eyes to see. Without a single strike, Yuzhibo Feng quickly fired 3 swords in his hand, and then both quick hand printing. Ninja technique. Sword shadow splitting technique in hand. Watching the 3 swords in their hands split and change exponentially in the blink of an eye, in an instant, the swords in their hands flew towards Shenglan. After waving the few swords in Kouwu's hand that were at the forefront, Shenglan had a chakra attached to his feet, using both hands and feet, and crawled to hide behind a big tree. "Damn it, old man, are you really playing?" Shenglan shouted before Yuzhibo could respond to him. As soon as the sword in his hand was completely empty, Shenglan flashed out and charged towards Yuzhibo Feng. Fire escape. Phoenix flower technique. Shoo shoo. A dense small fireball spat out from his mouth and hit Shenglan head on. This time, he had no choice but to avoid it. As soon as Yuzhibo Feng showed his joy, he noticed that Shenglan, who had been hit, had turned into a piece of wood with a bang. "Stand up." When Yuzhibo Feng was surprised, but in an instant, he knew that Shenglan was still there after the tree, cast the spell first, but delay the activation. This is a common way to proficiently use stunt techniques. Fire escape. The art of Haohuoqiu. A giant fireball, one size smaller than before, collided with him head on, and Shenglan began to exert force. After quickly smashing the fireball, Shenglan followed closely and raised his hands, shooting 2 painless swords left and right. In his flipped hands, 2 more swords appeared in his hands, ready to block Yuzhibo Feng's escape route. The precise painless throwing technique made Yuzhibo Feng frown at the sight. His chakra damage was too great. Although Shenglan realized his intention to consume it, he still quickly formed a seal on his hand. Water escape. Water formation wall. Every owner of Sankoku's Sharingan is a master of ninjutsu, which is recognized in the ninja world. Copying ninjutsu is a unique ability of Sankoku's Sharingan. Although there is no water attribute chakra, it does not mean that water escape ninjutsu cannot be cast, although the consequence of doing so is that the power of the spell is small and the damage caused will be greater. However, this water escape is more than enough to withstand the powerful fireball of Shenglan. Bang! Hiss, hiss. After a brief collision, water and fire were incompatible, and the two cancelled each other out, with strong steam spraying out. Shoo! 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 Through the smoke, small fireballs broke through the thick mist and hit Yuzhibo Feng head on. At this moment, Shenglan's voice came from afar. Fire escape. Phoenix flower technique. This time it's Yuzhibo Feng's turn to flee in embarrassment and avoid. Hiding behind a big tree, Yuzhibo Feng was panting heavily. The battle time was neither long nor short, and he had already begun to lose his ability to succeed. After all, he is really old. He hasn't really fought for at least 10 years. At his age and position, he doesn't need to do anything by himself, and there are only subordinates and juniors at his disposal. Terrifying. Is this guy really only 5.5 years old? Who taught him this combat experience and the use of ninjutsu? Also, this guy actually has this kind of chakra volume. Yuzhibo Feng looked incredulous. Yuzhibo was sent by him to guide Shenglan, but he knew that Yuzhibo had never engaged in actual combat with Shenglan. Because although they all know Shenglan's terrifying talent in their hearts, they subconsciously believe that Shenglan is still a child and not worth hands. On practical guidance, Yuzhibo Spring has this idea. So, all along, in addition to imparting the theory and skills of the Battle of Victory Blue, as well as providing guidance on cultivation, Victory Blue has been exercising his own body. Is it the one named Matt Dai who gave me some guidance? Shouldn't it be? Isn't that the person who only knows physical skills when enduring? Yuzhibo denies himself. Although he has a high level of attention to Shenglan and knows that he always follows Maite Dai to practice, he does not know the specific details. In fact, he guessed correctly. Shenglan's combat effectiveness was indeed thanks to the help of Lao Dai. In Lao Dai's eyes, he wouldn't treat Shenglan as a child. After all, he has already become brothers and sisters, so he naturally treats him like his peers. Dueling and fighting are the cultivation tasks that Lao Dai has recently requested. Lao Dai's physical skills are very powerful. When Shenglan competed with him in physical skills, he was extremely abused, not to mention not even touching someone's clothes. Only with the use of ninjutsu, the assistance of hallucinations, and the hand-sword throwing technique learned from Uchiha Izumi, can we barely resist for a while and not be defeated too quickly. So, in each battle, Shenglan's combat experience quietly and rapidly improved. Listening to fireballs hitting tree trunks one by one, Yuzhibo leaned back against the trees, panting. I planned to restore some chakras in a rough manner. However, Shenglan was unreasonable and relentlessly pressing forward step by step. Fire escape. The art of Haohuoqiu. A loud roar came, and Yuzhibofeng's face changed dramatically in fear. He didn't want to just roll on the spot, knowing that the tree he was hiding from couldn't stop the giant fireball. As a result, the expected explosion did not sound. Instead, a burst of air was heard. I was deceived. Shenglan's loud roar just now was just pretending, and Yuzhibo was deceived again. But just thinking about it, how could a child under 6 have so many chakras? And without stopping, one after another throw. Just thinking about it, you know it's impossible, but Yuzhibo dare not gamble. After all, Shenglan has scared him too much. If there were a huge fireball, that small tree would really be unstoppable. After all, he is still cowardly. The older he gets, the more he cherishes his life. As he grows old and frail, it is difficult to avoid the sound of breaking through the air. Chapter 4. The Angry Strike of the Three Elders. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Pop. A small stone hit his chest. You have already lost. Shenglan panted heavily, and if this stone were replaced with Kuwu, Yuzhibo would have died, so he was truly defeated. His chakra is actually only enough to cast a powerful fireball spell and a phoenix flower spell, and using an additional stunt double can already be considered a breakthrough for himself. After all, even though he can refine chakras very quickly, he is still too small to hold much chakras in his body, which is also the reason why his chakras have not changed much in the past 6 months. His body capacity is limited, and he can't just increase it if he wants. He can throw 3 ninjutsus in a row, thanks to his daily water training. Over the past 6 months of perseverance, as well as his strong spiritual strength, have given him impressive chakra control. Despicable. Yuzhibo was angry. He felt that this little rabbit was too cunning and that he had lost too unfairly. Losing to a child under 6 years old made him feel unbelievably hot on his face. Ninjas themselves are not a glamorous profession. Do I still need to teach you this? Shenglan chuckled and waved to Mei Qin in the distance. Upon hearing this, Yuzhibofeng's face changed and he gradually became somewhat disappointed. He secretly thought to himself that while he was old and confused, he also felt a great sense of shame and sadness. I'm really getting old. Not only is it impossible to defeat even a child, but one's own strong heart has also decayed. Politics and power have seriously poisoned his body and mind. You guys are so amazing, Grandpa. Tell me quickly who won. Mei Qin's eyes flickered with admiration. It was the first time she had seen such a decent and complete ninja duel, and she was also surprised that Shenglan was so powerful that he could fight his powerful grandfather like this. You should know that there are many powerful upper ninjas in their clan who respect her grandfather very much, and are even willing to obey his command and command. She, who doesn't understand politics and power, only thinks that her grandfather should be stronger than those who endure, so those people will listen to her grandfather's words. I lost. Of course, I just lost one move, it's a pity. Shenglan smiled at her. My grandfather can't even defeat his family's upper ninja. It's normal to lose. You're already amazing. Mei Qin comforted with a naive and innocent smile. Yuzhibo listened awkwardly, but his gaze towards Shenglan showed an undisguised appreciation. This little devil has such a precocious nature. Whether it's intelligence or emotional intelligence, he far surpasses his peers by too much. It's hard to imagine that he's not even 6 years old. It feels like an old ghost giving up a child and being reborn. Yuzhibo suddenly thought of it this way, then shook his head and cursed himself for having wild thoughts. If his thoughts at this moment were known to Shenglan, he would probably say something to Yuzhibo. You are truly a skilled old ghost, you guessed so accurately. I don't allow you to graduate at this time. To get to the point, Yuzhibo said directly to the local audience. I thought Shenglan would make a fuss and refute, but I saw him awkwardly scratch his head and say. What? Actually, I don't want to graduate early, but without graduation, I can't make money. Without money, I can't survive. After a long commotion tonight, Shenglan's real goal is still for money, damn it. The money I've given you is enough for you to lie down and live for 10 years. Are you still pretending to be poor here? Yuzhibo was so angry that he cursed loudly. I don't want to either, but it's inevitable that the journey of cultivation will result in poverty, wealth, and high expenses. After hearing these words, Yuzhibo couldn't help but ask, where did you learn these things? Did Maite Dai teach you? Poor literature and rich martial arts. Such a fitting adjective. I have lived for most of my life and cannot use it. Yeah, Teacher Dai said, to cook the body, meat is essential, and you should eat more special foods. Yuzhibo looked unconvinced. Don't lie to me, old man. The money I gave you, even if it's a big meal of fish and meat, eating one plate after another, will be enough for you to eat for 3 to 5 years. You know, Teacher Dai wastes so much time and energy on me every day. I can't go to dinner with him and have him treat me, can I? It's not easy to pay off debt of gratitude, but it's only a small amount of money that can be paid off. To be honest, Shenglan knew that Yuzhibo had always arranged for someone to monitor him, which was considered a form of protection. Of course, this protection is also occasionally sent over to take a look. Katsura is in Kiba, and as a student of the ninja school, he is already in a safe place and does not need to be constantly monitored. Yuzhibo instinctively nodded, indicating that Shenglan had done the right thing, and then immediately froze. Then, his nose twisted with anger. His debt of favor is about to be repaid. What about Laozi's? What about Laozi's debt? Shenglan gave a dry laugh, and when it came to his own debt, he quickly made a promise and said. Don't be angry. Don't you think about it. At my level, it's normal for me to become a ninja in less than 3 to 5 years, right? After completing the task, isn't the money just a number? As for your debt of gratitude. Hee. Don't worry, I will help you take care of Mei Qin in the future. Hee. Shenglan giggled foolishly. He thought that if he had to repay him when he grew up, it would be difficult for Yuzhibo to live to that age. Since he couldn't repay him, it would be the same to repay his granddaughter. I'm going to Nima. Yuzhibo couldn't help but curse and punched him in the face. Suddenly, Shenglan was hit hard and fell into a coma. This punch is very heavy, it's his angry blow. Just as Yuzhibo was about to step on a few feet, he was stopped by his thoughtful cotton jacket that was leaking heavily. Grandpa, what are you doing? Stop it. Mei Qin exclaimed. She was still young and didn't quite understand what the two of them were saying. However, Shenglan said that when she took care of her, she was actually very happy. As a result, why was her grandfather so angry? She won't understand. Damn it. Little bunny, eat from me, wear from me. Still want to covet my granddaughter. I don't know how to take care of my beautiful piano myself. This is called repayment. This is clearly hoping that I will die soon. You shameless white-eyed wolf, I won't beat you to death. After scolding, Yuzhibo still couldn't help but stomp on Shenglan's handsome face. Only then did he restrain his temper and leave angrily, playing Mei Qin. Shenglan. Mei Qin turned back 3 times in one step, feeling a bit uneasy and left like this that night. Friendly and enthusiastic jungle mosquitoes sent a bunch of big red envelopes to Shenglan again. The next morning, Yuzhibo brought a full 200,000 taels of silver notes to Shenglan. It seems that yesterday's efforts were not in vain. I do need to demonstrate enough value in order to make people feel at ease and increase investment. It is foolish to blindly hide my strength. It is right to be indecent in my development, but if it is too indecent, I am afraid of developing poorly. After seeing off Yuzhibo, Shenglan murmured. Chapter 5. Money Ability. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shenglan has been spending so much lately, which is actually related to cultivation. The medicinal bath of the Lao Dai family is extremely valuable, but the price is naturally also extremely high. He has been getting a bit tired of exercising lately. He drags his exhausted body home every day, and since crossing over, he has almost never stopped exercising his body. Gradually, he was no longer satisfied with the thin medicinal bath used by Lao Dai's family for body refining. He approached Lao Dai and spent a lot of money to make a powerful, complete version of the body refining medicinal bath, and then immersed himself in it to repair and endure his scarred body. Although Lao Dai does not praise Shenglan's pathological body refining, he still has confidence in his own medicinal wine. After all, this is their family's ancestral secret recipe, which has been verified by himself for many years and indeed has miraculous effects on body refining. After each soaking of Shenglan, Lao Dai would add some water and then immerse himself in it, because Shenglan's young body cannot absorb too much medicine, and these expensive medicinal liquids cannot be wasted at will. Of course, even the medicinal wine used by Shenglan, after being diluted by Lao Dai's water injection, has a medicinal power that is 2 to 3 times higher than his usual prescription. The vast majority of Shenglan's money was also spent on their cultivation as a result. After seeing Shenglan's money ability, Lao Dai has always believed in his identity as a rich second generation. After all, no child can spend so much money, except for the rich second generation. Only the rich third generation Yuzhibo is a wealthy second generation member of the big family, and with this kind of purchasing power, Dai feels its normal. Shenglan's actions are also extremely bold and generous. Meet. Let's take the best medicine. We also need to use the best. Of course, if it weren't for Lao Dai's constant emphasis on soaking himself in a medicinal bath, the effect would not have been significant, and Shenglan wouldn't have let him soak in his second-hand medicinal bath. Daily practice is no longer enough to make Lao Dai feel tired, which is why he insists on not soaking in the complete version of the medicinal bath. Overall, Shenglan's money is well spent. In the past 6 months, his physical fitness has far surpassed most of his peers in all aspects. If it weren't for age restrictions on his growth, his progress would not have stopped like this. This is the reward for his daily hard work and practice. Walking on the way to school, Shenglan pondered on the next course of action. Since we want to showcase our value, Shenglan naturally won't just show it to Yuzhibo. His current ambition and goals are all focused on a voyeur. The campus protection fee he created before was just a bait he threw himself. He was waiting for those big clan children to rise up and resist, and also waiting for the real big fish to take the bait. Of course, Part of the reason is that he wants to spend some pocket money to maintain his image as a second-generation tycoon in front of Lao Dai. On this day at school, as soon as class was over, an unexpected person approached him. Yuzhibo Fuyue. What is he doing here? Shenglan scratched his head as he watched as he found his own Fuyue. This guy has been unconscious for a day and rested for 3 days since he was taught a lesson with his illusions. However, not only did he not cause any trouble for himself or seek revenge from others, but he even smiled at each encounter, leaving Shenglan confused. Even he thought, could it be that the illusion at that time had caused too much damage to him, causing Fuyue's spirit to be severely damaged and damaging his brain? I shouldn't have done it. The technique of neurotomy is just a C-level illusion. Even though my spiritual power is exceptionally strong, it shouldn't be like this. Shenglan thought to himself that he did not understand Fuyue's approach. If he knew that Yuzhibo Feng had visited his grandfather and said something to him, Shenglan wouldn't be surprised. Fuyue followed his grandfather's teachings and made winning blue his goal. In his heart, he also agreed with his grandfather's guidance. No matter how powerful he is, he can only become the sword in his own hands in the end, because his surname is Yuzhibo. I will also inevitably become the future leader of the Uchiha family. My vision should be long-term, and my mind should also be broader. Fuyue secretly warned himself. At this point, Fuyue directly explained his intention to come. Your class's daily football team has found senior students and is preparing to trouble you. His purpose of coming here is to ask if Shenglan needs help. He plans to give Shenglan a helping hand in the snow, in order to win his heart. Oh. How many people did he find? Shenglan casually asked. He became interested. Hinata is a member of Hinata's lineage, so almost all school branches will obey his orders. There are about 20 people from Hinata who are in first grade or above, along with some of Hinata's vassals and common people. I estimate that there will be no less than 50 people in total. When Fuyue said these things, he trembled slightly and spoke excitedly. He was still young, and as the crown prince of the Uchiha family, the child's favorite thing was to pull people and fight in groups. More than 50 people. Shenglan's eyelids twitched at the words. Damn it, he underestimates the appeal of the Hinata clan. He knows that Hinata is not convinced and also knows that Hinata will find someone to retaliate against him, but he really didn't know that Nissan could find so many people. What is the concept of more than 50 people? Almost equivalent to the number of people in 2 classes. Looking at Shenglan's surprised expression, Fuyue sneered in his heart but asked with a smile on his face. Do you need my help? We, Yuzhibo. No need. Before Fuyue could say more, Shenglan rudely interrupted him. His face twitched fiercely, and he froze completely. Shenglan's words were resolute, and there was no possibility of hearing them wrong. Suddenly, Shenglan felt a familiar feeling in his heart, a strange feeling of being peeked at. Here we go. In a crystal ball, Shenglan's figure appeared clearly within it. Around the crystal ball, the 3 ninjas gathered together. At this time, they had not yet become famous and could only be considered as 3 strong upper ninjas. They also spent a considerable amount of time studying with the 3rd-generation Hokage every day, and also worked part-time as errands and assistants for Hokage. Suddenly, Shenglan from the crystal ball slammed onto the table, startling Fuyue beside him. This sudden scene immediately caught the eyes of San Dai and San Nin. The light was captivated. It's this little guy again. Qianshou said with a smile on his lips. She had a good impression of Shenglan. The others remained silent, but their gaze remained fixed on him, clearly curious about this little guy. In the classroom, Shenglan's eyebrows stood upright and he angrily shouted, I want to see which onion will be counted among the sun in the future. After speaking harshly, as soon as he walked out of the classroom, he saw the swollen rope tree running towards him. Boss, you're here at the right time. Rizu is looking for someone to take care of you. I just got beaten up by him, sob. Boss, you're going to stand up for me. Looking at the black and blue face of the rope tree, Shenglan sighed that the little brother's collection was too damn right. Don't panic. Shenglan let out a calm voice, pulled over the rope tree, patted his shoulder, and comforted him. Brother, help you stand out. Rizu's grandson is doomed. The arrogant and extreme words instantly made Qianshou burst into tears and give up his heart. He almost offered his tender and precious chrysanthemums to Shenglan. The boss is mighty. The rope tree roared, his face turned red, and his expression was excited. He felt that he had followed Shenglan recently, which was too fucking exciting. The scene of these two little friends harmoniously coexisting fell into the crystal ball, making Sanmin and Sandai enjoy it. My rope tree seems to have been beaten up. Qianshou said angrily with his eyebrows on end. Chapter 6. Punish Yuzhibo Shenglan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He did get beaten up, but it seems like he's about to find someone to help him stand out. Hee. And Orochimaru licked the corner of his mouth and gave an evil smile, which was the expression he would only show when he saw something that interested him. Did you find that guy? Zilai suddenly said. His impression of Shenglan can be said to be terrible. He still remembers Shenglan wiping his nose last time. At the entrance of the classroom, Shenglan asked. Where is that guy from Rizu? As soon as he spoke, a response came from a distance. I'm here, and I was just looking for you. It was Hinata Higashi who responded to him. Looking around, Hinata followed a group of students closely behind him. Beside him, there were two Hinata branch families standing on either side, one head taller than him. It is obvious that these two are 6th grade students and fully qualified to graduate and become ninja. Even one of them belongs to the genius level of the Hinata family, and is also one of the top students in school. Shenglan crossed his arms and asked calmly, is that your confidence in provoking me? Shenglan suddenly closed his eyes, chuckled and shook his head. His expression was proud and elegant, and the curve of his mouth seemed to mock or disdain. His attitude deeply pierced Rizu's proud heart, and an inexplicable anger arose. Shenglan, don't think how great your Uchiha family is. They are just a group of hooligans and scum. Why do you collect everyone's protection fees? What qualifications do you have to bully classmates in school? This is the school of Kiba, not your Uchiha family's school. Hinata Yoshimasa spoke harshly, truly deserving of being an educated prince of a noble family. His stern and righteous reprimands caused the vast majority of people present to discuss. That's right, why do you charge protection fees? Yes, what qualifications do you have to pay for protection fees? You still charge me $200, I only have $300 pocket money in a month. Be arrogant, go back to your Uchiha family and be arrogant. Defeat Yuzhibo. With just one sentence from Rizu, the crowd suddenly became furious. Many people in Class 1, Grade 1, almost all speak out and reprimand, and they are also now. Only then did I realize that everyone had been charged protection fees, and I wasn't the only one who was wronged. At first, everyone swallowed their anger. After all, Shenglan was too abnormal and powerful in their eyes. He was a true ninja who could spew fireballs, the art of phoenix flowers, and even many second-grade students were not his opponents. The first-grade student in the second grade was directly scared to death, which made them dare to resist Shenglan. Moreover, this guy is fighting against his own clan. Who dares to provoke such a guy who even beats his own people? The most important thing is that after he finished hitting someone, the incident escalated so much that he continued to attend classes the next day as usual. There was nothing wrong with it, and the crown prince of the Uchiha family did not retaliate. This is very scary. They are all descendants of a noble family, with support from the upper ninja at home or behind their backs. They are not stupid, they all know that winning the blue is not easy, so no one wants to be the top bird. The crown prince of the Uchiha family endured this kind of injury and insult, and we were charged a protection fee of 200 yuan, which can be counted as a ball. Hold on. This is the common idea of almost everyone in class 1 of grade 1. Unfortunately, Rizu stood up with such an iron head. He was the crown prince of the Zong family and had been held in the palm of his hand since childhood. Last time, he suffered no harm, and the insulting but extremely strong gaze killed him. He couldn't bear this breath. Money is just a small matter for him, and he doesn't care if he goes to pay the daily difference. He wouldn't just let Shenglan bully him like that. Who is he? The crown prince of the Zong family, the absolute master of the Hinata family, has many people under his command. In school, even the crown prince of the thousand-handed clan, Qianshou, may not have more power than him. Moreover, the beating of Qianshou this time was also his own creation. Due to the protection fee, he has already offended the public, and a large number of younger brothers have stopped hanging out with him. They have all gone to the Rizu side. Therefore, he was beaten until his nose and face were swollen, and the ones who dealt the hardest were actually the little brothers he had brought before. Of course, he is also a victim. The real culprit is still his boss. Uchiha Shenglan. He is just the younger brother of the boss. He does whatever the boss asks him to do. He himself is a bare child, and collecting protection fees, such a bad thing that has the opportunity to show off, makes him feel excited just thinking about it. He was also in contact for the first time. How did he know that doing so would cause beating, and how did he know that it would provoke public anger? He always naively believed that the boss would cover him up. He just did it. This is in line with the thoughts and style of a 5-year-old bare child, who is also a qualified young man. Watching the surging crowd of classmates, Qianshou felt a bit flustered. At this moment, a strong palm rested on his shoulder. Don't panic. Shenglan calmly comforted him, and there was no sign on his face that he had provoked public anger and made a big mistake. Who else wants to resist me? Let's stand up together. Shenglan suddenly raised his head and asked arrogantly. His voice was not loud, but his words were extremely arrogant. What a man! You are truly the leader of my thousand-handed rope tree. Watching Shenglan, Mount Taishan collapsing in front of him without changing his face, listening to his arrogant words, Qianshou suddenly thought of such words. At this moment, he suddenly felt like he was with the right person. Even if he was to be beaten again next, he felt it was worth it. It's not a big deal. The rope tree roared in its heart. A sentence from Shenglan, the whole scene was fried. Too arrogant. Beat him up. Yes, everyone go up together and beat him up. Go ahead. Fuck him. With so many of us, are we still afraid that he won't succeed? Go. Many people are clamoring and shouting, but none of them dare to really rush forward. After all, no one wants to be a leading bird, and the real leading bird, Rizu, has not yet moved. At this moment, Shenglan took a step forward, his eyes slightly widened, and a pair of dark pupils coldly scanned the crowd. His eyesight had been cultivated, and even if he had not activated the 3 Guyu Sharingan for blessings now, his eyes were still incredibly sharp. These were the eyes of the Uchiha clan. In the realm of ninja, no one could compete with them in terms of eye contact. Moreover, he is already able to preliminarily control his will, and his vision formed by a firm will unconsciously shake his beliefs upon seeing it. Shenglan's step, this glance, made the originally fierce shouting suddenly stop, and everyone present suddenly fell silent, even many unconsciously took a step back. The confrontation of momentum is like this. You advance and I retreat, I advance and you retreat, there are ups and downs. It is obvious that Shenglan is now on the strong side. Although there are many people on the other side, they are still young and inexperienced. With fear in their hearts, it is difficult to confront Shenglan with momentum again. Hinata is very good at judging the situation. When he saw that his allies were feeling fear and apprehension, he immediately stepped forward. He wanted to mobilize everyone's emotions and make them drum up. Only with courage can we defeat this terrible opponent. Don't be afraid, everyone. I, Hinata, am willing to take the lead and fight against the evil Uchiha Shenglan together. From now on, I don't have to be bullied by him anymore. The more the football team yelled, the more excited they became, and their face turned red. If he could take the lead in defeating Shenglan this time, it would be up to him to decide the final say for Class 1. Moreover, he also indirectly attacked the Uchiha clan, which will definitely bring great benefits to his Hinata clan in the future. After all, the Hinata clan and the Uchiha clan are both members of the Qianshou family, and they are also from prestigious families. They are already engaged in open and secret struggles, and no one is willing to accept them. Think about it, a character who hit the crown prince of the Uchiha family and made himself clean up, doesn't that mean Uchiha Fuyue is clearly not as good as himself? I pinned down Yuzhibo Fuyue, who should various small and medium-sized families join and who should they associate with in the future? Do you still need to ask? And most importantly, the other party is still the leader of the crown prince of the Qianshou family. Does this indirectly reflect that the crown prince of the Qianshou family is not as good as himself? Is there any family that dares not give him Hinata face in the future? Not giving him enough face in the future. At the thought of these, Hinata trembled all over and was extremely excited. Today will be the day when Hinata became famous. Chapter 7. Each position. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the hostile sides in the crystal ball, the third-generation Hokage frowned and said solemnly. It seems like a fight is about to break out. It's lunch break now, and the teachers are also taking a break. I don't think there's enough time to stop it. Orochimaru, if you go over, that kid from Uchiha's family will not take any action lightly. Don't make any big trouble again and let the kids get injured. That little ghost from the Uchiha family knows ninjutsu, it's not just for fun. 3 generations are not afraid of him being beaten up, he is afraid of this guy using ninjutsu to harm people. After all, this kind of thing has happened before, and it was just a result of taking action against people of the same clan. This time, it may even be more serious than before. As soon as the third generation finished speaking, Orochimaru left in an instant. Along with him, there was also Tsunade. They are both speeding towards the direction of the school at full speed. Shout! This guy feels like an unstable factor at school. Zilai also bluntly said. Hehe, that's true. The third generation smiled and agreed with his words. It's better to just let him graduate and save him from harming his classmates. Zilai also hugged his arm, rolled his eyes, and casually said. Suddenly, Sandai's face became extremely serious, and he said seriously to Zilai. Graduating him now is harming him. Don't forget his age, he's still a child who doesn't understand anything. Zilai suddenly shook his whole body, put aside his cynical attitude, and earnestly apologized to the third generation. Sorry, teacher. I have no ill intentions, it was me who talked too much. He felt extremely ashamed to target a 5-year-old child like this. While feeling ashamed, he also straightened his attitude and apologized seriously, even though that sentence was his unintentional words. It is obvious that he understood the meaning of 3 generations of language. I know. The third generation lit a cigarette and said, since then, he knows his personality the best. He doesn't want to go online. Suddenly, the scene of the situation changing in the crystal ball caught the attention of both of them. At this moment, Shenglan suddenly withdrew his gaze and looked at a group of Uchiha clan humanists who were a bit far from him. Fuyue, it's your turn to show off. You said you wanted to help me. If Shenglan were to win, everyone would be shocked. With the Uchiha family going to stand up for him, this battle is not easy to fight. The overall strength of the Uchiha family is going to surpass that of the Hinata family. Suddenly, their gaze focused on Uchiha Fuyue. Feeling everyone's gaze, Fuyue fell silent for a while, quickly weighing the pros and cons of whether to help or not in his heart. Originally, he intended to help Shenglan. After all, to win people's hearts, he always had to give something first. However, being decisively rejected by Shenglan and now with such a righteous attitude, he immediately felt a lot of dissatisfaction. Aren't you very capable? Damn it, in the end, you still want to ask me for help, Fuyue thought disdainfully, looking down on Shenglan from the bottom of his heart while secretly feeling proud. He was just about to agree, but the voice of Rizu rang out first. You want to stand up for him, right? That's great. Yuzhibo is indeed a bird of a feather. They are a group of evil people who only know how to bully the weak. During these days of studying in school, everyone has been bullied by their own people, haven't they? In school, to be honest, the people of the Uchiha family are the most arrogant, exclusive, and extreme, and such personalities are commonly found among the Uchiha family. The boys from the Uchiha family are very popular among girls because, aside from their personalities, they are actually excellent, handsome, and can play cool. Most girls like them, so boys naturally dislike them. Watching his emotions being stirred up again and accusing many students of the evil of the Uchiha family, Rizu excitedly continued. Today, everyone is gathered together, led by my Hinata family, to jointly overthrow this evil clan and fight against Yuzhibo Shenglan. Let them know that this is my school, everyone's school, not his Yuzhibo family's school. Watching the Japanese football team ignite the rebellious emotions of many students, Shenglan sneered in his heart. Undoubtedly, he is the future head of the Hinata family, a famous politician, and at such a young age, his eloquence has been trained to such an advanced level. No wonder later on, he could still deceive his nephew to let go of his father's deep hatred of becoming a ghost for the dead and pledge to die to be loyal to his family. So what? How would Fuyue choose this kid? He actually didn't expect Fuyue to stand out for him. The reason why he said that was just to see the attitude of these Uchiha people, which would also affect his future attitude towards the Uchiha people. Although Shenglan didn't care, this simple probing was very necessary. Yuzhibo Fuyue's expression changed as he watched the surging crowd. Rizu, this grandson is trying to isolate our Uchiha clan. Thinking of this, he immediately sweated profusely. If he had helped Shenglan this time, he was afraid that from now on, he would have fulfilled the title of his evil clan. It is inevitable that the Uchiha family will be excluded and isolated in the future, and even suppressed is not impossible. Although his Uchiha family is strong, it is not difficult to fight against a Hinata, but they can definitely not fight against everyone. It's so close, almost caught his way. Rizu, this guy is really cunning. Anyway, I also hate that arrogant guy. He made me so miserable and embarrassed last time, and this time he's just coming back for revenge. It depends on how he died. Yuzhibo Fuyue's heart turned like lightning, and in an instant, he weighed the pros and cons. He suddenly stopped the restless members of his tribe on his side, and then raised his hands high, shouting to the angry crowd in the field. Ladies and gentlemen, the matter with Shenglan has nothing to do with my Uchiha family. My Uchiha family is not an evil clan, and we also detest the bad behavior of receiving protection fees. Don't be used by Hinata Higashi to incite emotions and misunderstand my Uchiha clan. Fuyue directly named Rizu and bluntly stated that he was a villain. Before Rizu could express his opinion, he led numerous Uchiha people towards the front line of the crowd of melon-eating people. He ultimately had a childlike temperament and lacked patience, so he did not choose to reconcile with Shenglan. It is obvious that the Uchiha clan did not intend to participate in this fierce battle, and he did not listen to his grandfather's advice to ease the relationship with Shenglan. Such a scene made Rizu's face turn pale. Fuyue's actions have already made his position clear. He can no longer use the Uchiha family to argue, otherwise he would have become the villain. Fuyue pointed out, using Shenglan to suppress Uchiha. Humph. The vertical pole is unbearable, it's not enough to be with it. A cold snort full of disdain rang out, leaving all the students present confused. They don't have the knowledge reserves of Shenglan, obviously they can't understand the meaning of this sentence. Of course, Shenglan doesn't expect these people to understand either. Only Shenglan remained haughty in the field, while the rope tree behind him had become increasingly anxious and anxious. At this moment, Yuzhibo Mei-chin ran over and looked at Yuzhibo Fuyue with anger in her eyes. She then stood beside Shenglan without saying a word. Shenglan rolled his eyes, and just as he wanted Mei-chin to stay away from him, he saw a common student with yellow hair walking over with a hint of shyness. "Do you need help?" The student smiled awkwardly and asked, feeling that the situation was too big. Shenglan was likely to be beaten up very badly, and he couldn't do nothing. After all, he had already agreed to be friends together before. When his friend was in trouble, he stood up without hesitation, even though he might be implicated by Shenglan and beaten later on. Watching Bo Fengshui Gate stand up to support him, Shenglan was clearly taken aback and smiled. Mei-chin, this girl, stood up and he understood, but when Shui Men stood up, he was very surprised. At this age, the fourth Hokage should still be a younger brother. Shenglan thought to himself. Shui Men is only 6 years old at this time, and is in a stage of gentle voice, soft body, easy pushing and falling. At this time, standing up is not just about delivering food. However, he has this heart, which proves that Shenglan did not make this friend in vain. Fourth generation is indeed a very charming and trustworthy man. As Shenglan smiled helplessly, a voice suddenly rang out, solidifying his smile and shocking his expression. He saw a girl with fiery red long hair walking over with a big grin on the back of her head. "It's shameless for so many of you to bully him, isn't it? You have the ability to fight him. On point 1. The girl has a delicate face, a big cake face that is fair and tender, paired with fiery red thick long hair, which looks very eye-catching. Although she looks very cute, her words are extremely social." Chapter 8. Warfare and Warfare. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The girl swaggered over and then stood beside Mei-chin, her big eyes full of inexplicable charm, observing Shenglan without hesitation. The sudden appearance of this figure made Shenglan feel very familiar, but for a moment he couldn't recall the identity of this girl. Not long after she joined Shenglan's camp, a student who joined the Japanese football team immediately scolded her. "It's not up to you, an outsider, to give us a thumbs up on my matter. That's right, transfer students, outsiders, get out of the woods." Obviously, someone recognized the girl, and what they said was very unpleasant. The girl blushed and looked angry at the words. A large part of the reason she stood up was to help Mei-chin, who was her only good friend after coming to Kiba. Because she is a transfer student with eye-catching blood-red long hair, coupled with her carefree personality, not to mention boys bullying her in school, even girls in the class don't like her because even female classmates are afraid of this girl's irritable personality. This red-haired girl is a special anomaly in their eyes. Only the kind-hearted and friendly Mei-chin classmates are not afraid of the secular gaze. And among many men under the bullying, the girl was saved and the two became best friends as a result. That's why she chose to stand up and support Mei-chin at this moment. Of course, this indirectly counts as supporting Shenglan. "Are you Vortex 9 Shinnai?" Shenglan's puzzled voice briefly resolved Jiu Shinnai's anger. She tilted her head and glanced at Shenglan again, then nodded heavily. Hee. Shenglan chuckled inexplicably, and then he looked in the direction of the Japanese football team and said, "Thank you very much for your support, but please step aside first. This group of rabble. I'm enough to clean up on my own." Shenglan's words once again sparked public anger and uproar. However, upon hearing these words, the Japanese football team had a faint sense of unease. But listen to me, otherwise I'll be angry. Shenglan interrupted Mei-chin's worries ahead of time. Listening to his frivolous and serious words, Mei-kinden's head was covered in black lines. Although they were all worried about Shenglan's safety, listening to his unquestionable tone and looking at his confident posture, a few friends eventually. I chose to believe, don't be beaten to death, brother. As Jiu Xinai left with Mei Qin, she turned back with a smile. Believe me, brothers. Shenglan said to Shuimen and Qianshou. Okay. Cheer up, boss, go after them. I support you spiritually and will also stand by to support you. Watching the two compromise, Shenglan responded with a satisfied smile. This was originally a game he set up for show, but unexpectedly, the development of the situation exceeded his expectations and turned into such a situation. The situation is a bit serious, but it's still within my ability. It's time to let this farce come to an end. In the Huiying office, Zilai also looked at the wave-wind-water gate, inexplicably curious and said. What is the name of this blonde boy? It seems to be called the Wave Feng Shui Gate. San Dai took a puff of smoke and roughly explained that he didn't actually know the child, but he could accurately name the child. It's great. I dare to stand up and face so many people in such a situation, including those two girls. Isn't that the little girl from the Whirlpool clan? Zilai also said before realizing it. The third Hokage did not answer his doubts, but instead approached the crystal ball and said in a deep voice. We're fighting. That guy was the one who moved his hand first. Outside the classroom, Shenglan threw 3 purple smoke bombs towards the crowd across from him. Bang! 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 3 explosions resembling firecrackers sounded, and the purple smoke produced by the smoke bomb instantly enveloped the team of the Japanese football team. Confidence is one thing, and arrogance is another. He has not yet become so arrogant as to face so many students head-on. Even though he has the strength of a ninja at this moment, he is certain that he will suffer a disastrous defeat in a fair fight. After all, not everyone in the ninja school is mediocre, and there are many people in the big clan who have the means. To put it bluntly, the person on the other side could have killed him just by throwing a stone, not to mention that they still have training equipment in their hands, which is hard to reach before they start Li Jian. So to defeat this group of aggressive elementary school students, we need to use very effective means. For example, block their sight, use their own spiritual perception to engage in battle with these blind people, in order to achieve the goal of breaking through one by one. Bang! Ah! In the thick fog, the sun suddenly screamed out in agony. Most people cough anxiously, a small number cover their mouths and secretly guard themselves, and some just abandon the team and run away. White eyes, open up. In the crowd, several senior students, Hinata, opened their eyes in unison. In their sight, a figure with a moderate tolerance level of chakra was beating Hinata recklessly. This figure was very close to them, and even thinking about it, they knew who it was. Yuzhibo surpasses blue. A Hinata tribe member exclaimed in surprise. The young master of their own family is being brutally abused, and they don't have time to marvel at the Shikraliang of Shenglan, nor do they have time to think more. The 3 strongest Hinata instantly stopped the violent Uchiha Shenglan. They are all the elites of the Hinata family in school, with the strongest strength. A member of the Hinata clan took the lead in making a move. Hinata Akihiro slapped Shenglan's head with a fierce palm, which attached to chakra. If this strike hit him, he would have vomited blood at least, and there was absolutely no possibility of overturning the situation. Rochuan has the ability to block the enemy chakra. If it is hit head-on, Yuzhibo Shenglan will undoubtedly lose. However, the immediate result once again shocked the 3 of them. I saw Shenglan easily turn his head to dodge, as if he had seen the attack of the sun and autumn wind. You know, he doesn't have the same white eyes as Hinata. In such a thick smoke, he has no reason to see it. Even if he had a Sharingan, he couldn't see my attack in such smoke. The sun and autumn breeze shook my heart. But the next scene made him have to believe that Shenglan could really see through everyone's every move through the smoke. Avoiding a punch from the Hinata Akihiro, Shenglan thrust his elbow against his chest at an astonishing speed. In the panic of the Hinata autumn wind, He only had time to raise his hand to resist, and the instant collision made him scream in agony. Ah! Elbow to arm, Hinata Akita suffered a big loss. Another senior student, Hinata, also stepped forward to help at this moment. He rushed towards Shenglan and attacked repeatedly. In the smoke, the sound of fists and feet clashing incessantly echoed. In terms of physical skills, Shenglan stabilized his head, and within a few rounds, he was kicked by Shenglan, who found a loophole. He rolled on the ground in a circle, covering his stomach and falling to the ground without lifting up. Soft fist technique. Bagua 16 palms. After a few moves with Shenglan, a 5th grade student named Hinata began his soft fist move. Although he only had 16 moves, which was the initial move of soft fist, he used this move to defeat many peers of the same age. Faced with the formidable enemy in front of him, he used his own trump card. But the next moment after he used his ultimate move, he was shocked to find that all of his 16 palms were blocked. But if it was just blocked by him, it would be fine, but the enemy's subsequent actions left him completely bewildered. Soft fist technique. 8 trigrams and 16 palms. Shenglan roared and even put on a soft fist start. Chapter 9. One Side Down. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The 5th grade Hinata was stunned and suddenly received 16 slaps in a very short period of time. Palm to flesh, palm to face. In the blink of an eye, he was directly knocked unconscious. At the last moment of his coma, he heard his opponents roast. How dare you come out with such a fast fist and show off your skills? His Hinata flow Bagua palm is indeed not a problem, but it is too inexperienced and has not been mastered proficiently. At this time, when encountering opponents like Shenglan who have learned the Maide flow gang fist, as well as his unique insight, their loopholes are directly magnified several times. The so-called Bagua 16 palm in Shenglan's eyes is like a child waving their palm. Shenglan can see clearly and copy it. Of course, his 16 palms are tangible and lifeless, just a simple imitation, and cannot achieve the goal of acupoint blockade of chakra. Another problem was solved. Shenglan kept walking on, and on the way, he would hit anyone he met and hit anyone he saw. There was really no one to stop him, and the vast majority of people were knocked down by a single blow. Only the people of the Hinata family could see it, and they could fight him a few moves. In his hands, screams of agony spread from the area shrouded in thick fog, startling the onlookers who couldn't see the war from outside. White eyes, open. Rizu was beaten until his nose and face were blue and swollen, but at this moment he regained his strength slightly and quickly roared and opened his white eyes, wanting to see the situation clearly. But what made him despair was as soon as he opened his white eyes, he was punched hard in the eye, and the sharp pain in his eye socket made him scream like a pig. But as soon as he screamed, he was punched out of his front teeth. That person's attack was extremely fierce and heavy. He only had a chance to snort and then fainted in agony. After biting her teeth, Hinata Akihiro quickly supported her, and the sound of the collision between the soft fists and the hard fists suddenly sounded. Woodleaf whirlwind. Shenglan leaped up and kicked a wooden leaf towards the sun and autumn wind. Unfortunately, this move was directly blocked, and Hinata Akihiro's physical skills were not weak, and his speed was much faster than the previous 2 Hinata moves, almost catching up with the speed of Shenglan. Soft fist. With one punch and one palm, the two fought fiercely, unable to determine the winner for a moment. Shenglan even felt an indescribable sense of frustration. Although I am a bit faster than him, I dare not confront him hard, and you also need to be careful not to be hit by a soft fist, because once hit by Rochuan, he will be directly defeated, and the chakra blockade of Rochuan is not something he can lift at his current level. Soft fist technique. 32 Bagua palms. Hinata and Autumn Breeze swing their Bagua fist in a starting position, with white eyes locking onto Shenglan. Step back. Shenglan suddenly retreated uncontrollably, using all his skills to quickly break free from the attack range of the Hinata Autumn Wind. This move, the 32-8 trigrams palm, is unleashed with the strength of the sun and autumn breeze. Shenglan is absolutely unstoppable. Of course, he had no intention of taking on the attack, because after the just tough and gentle battle, he had roughly figured out the speed and strength of the Hinata and autumn breeze. He has Ibi number, and when he waved his hand in the direction of the sun and autumn wind, he retreated with all his might, instantly distancing himself from him. During the retreat, Shenglan noticed that the sun and autumn wind were rapidly approaching. In the midst of his illness, Shenglan quickly imprinted his hands and exited the area shrouded in thick fog. His feet rubbed against the ground, and in the horrified gaze of the onlookers, he opened his eyes. After quickly imprinting his hands, he covered the corners of his mouth, and thick, hot fireballs were spat out from his mouth. Fire escape. Phoenix flower technique. This time, he vomited a large and massive fireball, which was several times more powerful than when he fought against Fuyue and the others before. He deliberately increased the amount of chakra he used to output. He wants to take down all the hostile personnel in the smoke in one fell swoop. Water escape. Water formation wall. A water wall appeared out of nowhere, and all the fireballs were blocked. Orochimaru appears in time. With a thud sound, Hinata Akida's white eyes could see clearly. He breathed a sigh of relief and stopped walking. If those fireballs were not blocked, he was likely to be injured, and it was very likely to be very serious. Is the teacher here? The sun and autumn breeze thought to themselves. As Orochimaru appeared, another figure flashed out. With a wave of her hand, she waved away the purple mist and white steam that had been about to dissipate. This is Gangshou's appearance. With the complete disappearance of the smoke, all the students witnessed the most shocking scene of their growth to this day. More than 10 people were lying on the ground with screams, covering the hit area and screaming incessantly. On the ground, Hinata and a 5th grade student fainted, and a blood-stained white front tooth fell from Hinata's side. The famous old school card, Genius Sun towards Autumn Breeze, even covers his arms and eyebrows, head furrowed, obviously injured. Shenglan's elbow strike was very heavy. If it weren't for his immature strength, he could easily break his arm in one go. This is the price he underestimated Shenglan. If he had known from the beginning that Shenglan could see through the thick fog and was so fast, he wouldn't have suffered such a big loss. Although he did not underestimate his younger brother, who was several years younger than him before coming, after all, he had learned from Yuzhibo Fuyue's experience and confirmed that the other party knew ninjutsu and illusion. A student who knows ninjutsu and illusion is strictly speaking a ninja, and this is already worthy of his attention and serious treatment. But only after seeing Shenglan's strength did he realize that this guy's physical skills were also so strong. Is this really only 6 years old? Terrifying, this is the only thought of Hinata Akihiro at this moment. The shock that Shenglan gave him was too great, and there were too many unbelievable things that made him amazed. Genius. Maybe. Hinata Akita murmured to himself, unable to find a more suitable word to describe Shenglan than genius. He felt that only Shenglan at this moment was worthy of the word genius. His so-called genius was a joke in front of him. He also made up his mind to practice even harder in the future. Is that all? Over. Qianshou stuttered and asked, with a ghostly expression on his face. It seems like it's over. Watergate replied with an incredulous expression on his face. The two women's eyes flickered with love, their gaze fixed on Shenglan's body and couldn't move away. Hee. Interesting little ghost. Orochimaru licked the corner of his mouth and chuckled hoarsely. He had already arrived before Shenglan took action, and he also stopped the teacher who came to check and hid in the dark with Gungate to observe the development of the situation. After all, if the students didn't take action, there would be no need for the two of them to come out. And they were just trying to see how Shenglan could face the siege of so many people. Although his vision was disrupted by smoke bombs, Orochimaru knew that this guy's physical skills were very strong, and the elite members of the Hinata family's physical skills in school were not his opponents. Ninjutsu is also very strong. The power of the impatience technique just now was very great. Whether it was the number, size, or temperature of fireballs, it fully demonstrated that he had mastered this ninjutsu proficiently. What a mysterious child who can achieve this at this age, it's really unbelievable. I really want to dig him apart and see why he's so unique. Orochimaru suddenly developed a pathological interest in Shenglan in his heart. Feeling the eerie and abnormal gaze of Orochimaru, like a venomous snake, Katsura's whole body trembled inexplicably. That was an extremely dangerous gaze. His gaze made the five senses of Shenglan's cold hair stand on end, his muscles tense, and his heart alert. He reached out with his back hand and pulled out a bitter nothingness that had opened its edge. His pupils contracted slightly, and his expression was extremely focused, staring at Orochimaru. This kind of gaze. It looks like the giant eagle hunting for snakes outside the dragon cave. At this moment, the body has already formed a bit of a snake-like structure, and when facing Shenglan, there is a sense of unease about seeing natural enemies. Orochimaru's smile froze on his face. At this moment, his eyebrows furrowed, his pupils contracted, and a murderous intent unconsciously emerged. Shenglan stared closely at his every move, his pupils as if removing colors, removing onlookers, and even removing the world. At this moment, only the figure of Orochimaru remained in his eyes. With the passage of time, his three-hook jade riding wheel eyes were unconsciously opening up. Chapter 10. Detention. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Damn it. You've caused so much trouble again. At this moment, Qianshou let out a loud shout, waking up Orochimaru and bringing Shenglan, who had been focused to the extreme, back to his senses. The Shiwan is indeed very dangerous. Shenglan inexplicably thought to himself that the sense of crisis was very clear. Although he didn't know why he felt that way, he believed in it. I'm talking to you. Qianshou stepped forward and struck Shenglan hard, causing him to burst into tears in pain. Ah! What did you say? Shenglan covered his head and quickly asked. He had just focused on Orochimaru and didn't pay attention to what Qianshou said, which made this violent dairy cow angry. I said, you're in big trouble this time. Ah. Oh. Seeing Shenglan respond heartlessly twice, Gungate's anger surged once again. What's your reaction? Qianshou pinched his fingers with a clattering sound and approached Shenglan's side to inquire. Shenglan suddenly broke out in a cold sweat and instinctively took a few steps back. This violent maniac, who started at a word of disagreement and was extremely aggressive without realizing it, truly dared not provoke him now. Sister. I'm here. Shengshu ran over with a thud to help Shenglan clear the situation. You're a troublemaker all day long, are you trying to anger me to death? Qianshou doted on the rope tree's hair and cursed fiercely with a feigned expression. Sister, you don't know. Your younger brother was almost beaten to death just now. Look, my handsome face has been beaten up like this. It was my boss who helped me teach them a lesson. The rope tree villain first reported, pointing to the sun foot lying unconscious on the ground and saying. Boss. Qianshou stared at Shenglan with wide eyes. The latter smiled awkwardly and dared not answer. I don't care what the reason is, I can't solve this matter. If you come with me, let the teacher bother with this trouble. Qianshou looked at Shenglan seriously and said, although he had the intention to protect this little guy, this matter involved the ancestral family of the Hinata clan, which was no longer a problem she could solve. Yes. Although she is a princess from a thousand-handed family, many people will give her face and honor her by calling her an adult, but she has no right to interfere too much. It is most appropriate to leave this matter to the third generation. So, Shenglan was arrested again, and the teachers came out to wash the floor again in the Huiying office. Shenglan was punished to stand for half a day. The third generation lowered their heads to handle official duties, occasionally glancing up at him without speaking, creating a slightly heavy and oppressive atmosphere. Suddenly, Orochimaru appeared in an instant, holding a report in his hand and handing it to Sandai. After carefully reviewing it, Sandai buried his head in work. After a while Shenglan was waiting impatiently, Zilai and Gungata entered the office together. "Has the child from Rizu been sent back? What did Rishiang say?" Sandai kept asking without lifting his head. "Well, it was sent home." The leader of the Hinata clan was very angry. He sent someone to scold the school's teachers for their inadequate supervision and asked about the names and movements of the attackers. Zilai also reported. The third generation stopped working and looked up for a moment. I answered his inquiry. He just nodded and called for someone to see him off, without saying anything more. Gangshou spoke out in a voice. Upon hearing this, the third generation frowned and their face was not very attractive. Leader Hinata is truly a great clan leader, with an extremely sophisticated way of handling things. Unlike when Yuzhibo Fuyue was beaten before, when Elder Yuzhibo immediately came to demand someone to deal with him, the actions of the Hinata clan leader have caused headaches for the 3 generations. Even he can no longer handle Shenglan's stubbornness lightly. Damn it, if I had known earlier, I shouldn't have intervened in this incident proactively. Whoever took the initiative in this matter would have been difficult. I should have asked the school teacher to notify the leader of the Hinata clan first, and then expressed my concern. I'm sure he wouldn't dare to act recklessly, and he would actually be the one who takes things lightly. The third generation tapped his fingers on the table, cursing himself for being confused, and his face was uncertain. Sannin has been with him for many years and knows that this is a physical reaction that the teacher reflects on when encountering trouble. If someone comes, they will be immediately charged with intentional injury and fighting, and Guan Yuzhibo wins the blue. The deadline is 5 days. The voice of the third generation rang out, startling everyone present, including Shenglan, who was completely dumbfounded. What kind of operation is this? I don't agree. Why do you want to lock me up? They want to hit me, and I'm just resisting. This is a legal act. Why do you lock me up? Shenglan made a big fuss. Protest is invalid, execute immediately. Sandai Huiying lit a cigarette, took a deep breath, and looked at Shenglan, who was still struggling and making a scene by the collar after being grabbed by Gangshou, with a slight smile. His face softened a lot. Just because I am Hokage, you mischievous monkey, give me your life. The words of the third generation made Sannin couldn't help but laugh. They all knew that the teacher used to be scolded as a monkey by the second generation Hokage, but now it's his turn to scold others as monkeys. This seems to represent his value for Shenglan, and Sanrin couldn't help but think about it. I don't agree, I'm only 5 years old. I'm a child, I'm a minor, you can't do this. A sudden appearance of white hair in the dark grabbed his arm and pulled him straight towards the office door. Shenglan suddenly stopped his noisy movements, his face slightly changed, and he glared at the third generation and said, "You wait for me." After saying a harsh word, he obediently followed the secret agent and left. Wood leaves with white teeth, flag trees with lush foliage, looking at the silver white hair in the dark, the short blade on his back, and the well-restrained sharp aura, Shenglan knew his identity. This is also why he no longer rebelled against the commotion, but let him lead him along. Watching the two leave the office, the third generation took a puff of smoke, picked up a report, and handed it to Jiraiya and Gungata. The report provides a detailed record of Shenglan's every move during the majority of his time, the characters he interacted with, and the independent analysis of the dark side. The report provides a detailed list of Shenglan's daily life, with the vast majority of records showing both cultivation and cultivation. This is a cultivator who has no childhood life. He seems to be only passionate about practicing, and every day, besides eating and sleeping, he is also practicing his body or cultivation. This report is provided by the Dark Department, with clear organization and meticulous observation. It is a file of long-term monitoring records. Although the place where Shenglan lives may be a bit remote with very few people, there is suddenly a child stationed there near the school and a campsite has been set up. How could the ninjas in the dark not notice? Shenglan also knew that he could not escape the eyeliner of the dark side, so he simply let those dark sides watch. The report points out that although this son has the surname of Uchiha, he has never seen him before after returning to the Uchiha clan's territory. This is a child suspected of being expelled from the Uchiha family. The dark side observed a large amount of animal bones piled up next to the campsite, with snakes being the majority. A large number of hunting traps were set up in the forest not far away, so the dark side inferred that this child mostly used the captured prey as food. Seeing this, Qianshou's mind fluctuated greatly, and his fingers unconsciously squeezed tightly. A pitiful child without family, money, and home. How could the Uchiha clan let such a wandering 5-year-old child go unchecked? Gang Shochi angrily exclaimed, and among the three men, Orochimaru closed his eyes and sighed silently, while Sandai smoked and turned his head in silence. According to the analysis of the dark side, although this son is wandering outside, his daily necessities are extremely complete, and it is suspected that there are adults behind him who have come into contact with him and provided him with daily necessities. Suspected disciples of Neon Mate Dai have daily morning contact and training together. Suspected to master the three-body technique, confirmed to master the fire escape ninjutsu, hand sword throwing technique, body technique, and simple chakra control training method. Climbing trees and treading water, overall strength. Above average tolerance. Summary of the report. There are no anomalies in childhood life, only lunatics who know how to practice, a body-refining maniac who works tirelessly day and night. The dark side has a detailed understanding of most of Shenglan's daily life, but he doesn't know that what he knows is only what Shenglan doesn't mind letting them know. Because of his surveillance, Yuzhibo had already informed Shenglan that he knew.